Hey everybody, David R. Becker here this morning with Demo with David. And so here I'm so excited to show you a bunch of new things that's coming out in the art market. And one of the things is a aluminum panel that Legion Papers is putting their paper on. And let me just get right to this. This is going to be so much fun. And I'm doing these dancers, and it's a little bit smaller. Let me just show you here on the tabletop. So here, Legion Papers is coming out with this panel, and look at this. This is an aluminum panel. It's a aluminum panel that is aluminum, and it's very durable. I've been testing it the last couple of months, and I've been testing it, and they have every one of their papers on it. They have like the Stonehenge Aqua, the Stonehenge Aqua Black. They have Yupo. They have the Stonehenge oil paper. It's all going on these panels, and they're very rigid. And I tried to, I murdered these things. I put a heat gun on it. I put all kinds of stuff on it, and the paper does not release from the panel. And I'm interested to see what some of you guys will do with this, being that, are you going to go through the paper sometimes? They show that aluminum backing, because it is basically aluminum through there. And so, I mean, if you did like carving out of the paper, you could even do something like that. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna. This is the Stonehenge Aqua cold press paper, and it's really hard, and it doesn't bend one bit. No bending whatsoever. And I got a smaller. They just sent me some smaller samples and stuff, but I think they'll have standard size frame size, which I've been talking about for like really really long time. And they want me to try this again. And so I thought, I'm going to do like a watercolor and a gouache, both together. I'm going to do this with watercolor and gouache, and we're going to see how it works. Hey, Maria. Morning. And so, yeah, it's going to be pretty cool, and I'm really excited about this. And the fact that I would not have to glue paper down. And it is, it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than your average, sheet of paper, but then you can just wax it. Now I will wax it at the end of this demo to show you how I'm just going to wax it, and you can put it right into a frame. This is an 8x10. I'm just working small today, but here right next to me is the what it'll look like. I think that's what's going to look like in the stores wrapped up, but it should be kind of fun. We'll see how it goes, and let's get started. Let me get this out of your way so you can actually see my palette. And so yep, so we'll get that out of the way. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to work light to dark, and I want to explain when you're doing this last couple of demos I'm doing on Sunday. When you're working light to dark, you're still doing the same procedure of 3 steps, but one thing you have to watch out for is that your lights sometimes are the center of interest. And so that means you're doing step 1 and step 3, which is details, right from the get-go. And so I'm going to be basically, I can do the background first, but the face and her arms and like certain things on him, the collar and stuff, are my lights. And so that's part of the details, and especially her face. So I'm going to actually do her face and her arm along with the background right away. I know the background's light, but I'm gonna do a bunch of things with the background. I'm gonna spatter. I'm gonna maybe put some opaques on top of it. I will like put some darks and then put some light opaques on top of that, some gouache on top of that. So we're gonna have a little fun here. And again, for anybody who just started watching, this is on an aluminum panel that Legion Papers is just bringing out. Smeared my fingers on there. And they just brought out, and they glued their papers onto this aluminum panel, which then you just put right into a frame. No need for glass or a mat, which I've been talking about nonstop for the last month. And so let's just get started here. And so since I am working right away with the face and get the lights in there, I'm just gonna wet her face, and I'm gonna try to get some of the large parts of the light in her face done, because it's basically center of interest. And so and it's my lights. And so this is one time, it's almost like a still life. Sometimes you have to mix the step 1 and step 3 all together at once, because if I just do my background lights and I go right into her face, I got to be a little bit more careful with her face, because you can't just, unless you have a really fast style, loose style, then it'll be okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wet her face, and I'm going to keep part of her face white. I'm just going to keep part of her face white. And let's just go in here, and I don't care about, I can go beyond the face, but actually I'm not. I'm going to stay right in the face because I want to kind of just get that going. I hope I didn't, it looks like I may have, I wonder if I scrubbed a little bit too much when I was drawing. Hope I didn't wreck the paper. Anyways, let's just go in here with some nice flesh tone colors. And put those down right away. And I can go right into her hair. I don't have to worry about her hair. And let's see, I use a little bit of opaque too, a little bit of salmony color. And so like I said, I'm keeping part of her face white, and so that the background will be a little bit darker than her, like her forehead. And so just gonna go in here. I hope they didn't give me a paper that the sizing was off or something, or I scrubbed it too much, because it looks like it's going into the paper. Hopefully that's not a bad thing. So we're going to go through here, just get a little bit of the darks in there, wet in the wet. Okay. Dark down here. And like I said, it's definitely detail. It's definitely detail, but it is my lights. But my little bit of dark details are going in here right now, only because I want to get them in there because it's my light area, but it's also my center of interest. So I don't mind going in there with my details right from the get-go. I just had somebody in class yesterday, and by the way, thank you everybody for wishing me a happy birthday yesterday. Thanks so much. But yesterday in class, a lady was doing the same thing. Was doing tight first, and it's okay. It's not like every painting is the exact same. Sometimes you got to do the details first if it's like your light area, and it's going to be in the foreground, and then yes, just do it. Go ahead and do it. Just get that out of the way. And this paper right here is not acting very. I hope this is not the way their paper is going to act. It's pulling in, like it's sucking in. I wonder if the sizing on this thing was like this is an old sheet, or this is a sample that they a prototype. I test a lot of times. I test the papers for Legion, and I got to give them exact reply back, because when they did the black paper, the first couple of things I had gotten were not very good, not very well sized, and so I told them, because you don't want to get paper that's not sized well. All right, so there's her face, and it looks a little dark. I know it looks a little dark, but because this paper is going in, it's sucking in real lot. So let's just hope that that's just that part, because I rubbed too much with my eraser. Let's see how the rest of the paper works. This is a test. They sent me this just to test it, and so I'm always looking to test things for them. And I just love the board itself. The aluminum is, oh my god, it's just so amazing. It's so tough, and nothing's going to bend. It's just going to be beautiful. So there's his hand. I get it light, and I'm going to keep a lot of it just pure white, because I want that to be really bright. And that way, when I want to do the background, I'm going to do the background very textury. And so let's get this hand down here done too. These are parts of it light. Again, I'm getting the detailed lights in there first, which I know is normally what I don't do, and I get my big lights. This is one time though, because it's my center of interest, that I want to get it in there just so I have it in there. And then I can do my darks around everything, and this will be no big deal. And you can go beyond the line then too. This nice thing is you can go beyond the line and just get that. Okay. Oh, let's get her arm. I forgot her arm too. If you have any questions, guys, just let me know. Her arm is exposed right here, and so let's water it down and see how this works. Now, this is okay right here. I wonder if I rub too much or something on that part. That's weird. So wet the whole arm. I'm putting a pretty thick amount on there so I can get a nice soft edge. I'm making it pretty dark on the bottom because I know it's going to look really dark right now, but once I get the real darks in there, the blacks and the really darks, then this is going to look light. So I think we'll go with that. Now let's do we got our lights that are just basically part of, let's get a little bit darker in our hand right here, his hand. We can also rub out later. All right, let's do our background. So we got that. Those are basically our lights that were important in our details, and I want to get those out there. Her face, I gotta figure out what that was because that's kind of weird. It didn't handle correctly like their paper normally does. So I gotta watch that and see how that's gonna come about. All right, so let's wet the background, see how this stuff works. And so I'm gonna wet the background. Right through here. Now that is not good. That is not good. I wonder what's going on there. Okay, there's gonna be some talk with them. You can't have something like that. That is like the sizing of the paper or something is not happening right. And though it gives a nice texture, and it'll probably dry light, but there's something there. I'm not sure what's that. I've tested their paper before and it didn't do this on the panel. So on this batch, and hopefully this is just a batch that they didn't realize. All right, let's just, it's all wet and see how it's just kind of getting dark on its own by the wetness. So let's see. Interesting. That's probably why they sent it to me, just to test things. So let's go. What we're going to do, we're going to do some grays and some lavenders and grays, and I'm going to do some spattering. It's a wall back there, but I'm not going to worry about making it look like a wall. And actually, this is not going to look that bad with the what it's doing. But if I'm doing something really smooth, I wouldn't want that. So, and I am going to use a stencil, show you how to use a stencil. I want to make it look like they're moving. I don't want it stiff like that is in the photo. I want them to dance, and I want this to look really in motion. And I want to use a lot of grays. I want to kind of use some grays in there. So I'm just going to get some darks and some spatter. Spatter's always fun. And then the darks in this corner from the door, which is not, I'm not going to put it in the door, but I do want to put some darks in there. And basically my big thing is going to be her red dress, and so darks and red. I'm not going to worry too much about like a really big composition of red and green or something like that, and making complementary colors for my color concept. No, it's going to be just a lot of grays and then a lot of red. Her dress is being red. And so I can dip into some of the red now too and spatter some of the red. And this is supposed to be light, so I'm going to put the corner a little bit darker. I like the corner to be a little bit darker. But around them I want it light. I do want it light. And that is not a good thing there, guys. I'm sorry to say, Legion, but you're going to have to do something about that. That's not going to be good. You can't have, when you're wetting it, showing like there's no sizing in it or something, or I hope it doesn't break down the sizing when they glue it down, which this has not happened before, and there are other panels. I have tested their other panels, and this did not happen to that, but look at that. See, I'm wetting it, and it's just giving me that mark. Oh boy. It'll be interesting to see what happens when it dries. I go right into there. And let's put some lights in here too. Spatter. Just so it's actually good that I'm spattering. And they're not going to use this video as like a lesson thing. They're just going to use a fast motion thing. So it doesn't really matter when it comes to that. They'll use a fast motion, you know, the speed painting, so it goes through really quickly, so they won't even notice that. Spatter. And see, I'm getting texture, and that's going to all dry light. It's all going to dry light. And so this is I'm still doing my background light, except like I said, in the corner here. A little bit darker. I think the paper broke down the sizing or something on this. It really feels like the sizing is broken down, and so it doesn't give you a line. Like you can't. That's what happens when pigment or the sizing of a paper it breaks down. It doesn't let you doesn't hold the paint into a certain spot. It just absorbs it and just puts it throughout the paper. I've worked with a lot of papers that do that. Old papers, like paper does get old, and if it's not stored right, it then breaks down, and the sizing just goes throughout the paper and just doesn't let you hold a line. Doesn't let you just, it absorbs like a sponge. Then that's what's happening right here right now, which is very. They're gonna be very shocked when I tell them on Monday morning that happened. You know, it's gonna be. I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna see what happens. Still gonna try to paint through it. This is something. There's no way that if you're gonna spend more money on a piece of paper or a board, that this happens to it. See how it's like it's just soaking in and blending that in. I'm sure they would want me right now to stop and just, you know, not look at this. But, you know, it happens. It's like it's not on the market yet. It's going to be in December. And so by me telling them, they'll hopefully fix that. I'm just interested to see how it dries, because this will be really light, because it's looking dark because it's absorbing the water and going in there. Maybe in this corner, make it a little bit darker. And good thing I'm going to be using gouache today. I told you guys I'm going to be using gouache, and so I'm going to finish it like an oil, which is fine. It's still going to look great, but it's funny how that works. Let's put a little bit of red in the ground. Go through here. The ground is light. Again, I'm doing my lights. I'm doing my light areas. Yeah, I can tell it's going to go away, like Rita said. When this dries, it will go away, but you know, you can't have this happen like this if you're having a nice sheet of paper and it's just bleeding behind. You know, that should not happen. That's bad sizing, and it's ruining the sizing. And I didn't do anything except draw it on there, so that it wasn't because of me doing the drawing on there. See how you can see the little marks of the paper too. But it sure does look cool at the back, right? I mean, look at that, the aluminum panel. Isn't that pretty cool? I'm going to try their black also. I'm going to do that this week, and they want me to do some of these just so that they can show them like a painter painting on them. But they can probably still show it, but I don't think they're going to because they're not going to see my words. You know, it's not going to. It's just going to be a real quick take of the. So let's go right into that's my background. Basically, it's going to be textured like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in later with some opaques, like some opaque colors, my opaque gouache, and I'm just going to go in there. And now the dress, which is all red, I'm just going to kind of go with the light parts first because it's lighter than everything else. And so I'm going to get the lightest part of my red. And since stuff is not floating, I don't have to do more of a watercolor wash because it's not floating. Stuff is not floating because the water is seeping into the paper and not giving me a chance to float as much. So it's going to be a little bit more about the thickness to it of the paint. I mean, it still floats, but it's not going to get that look of watercolor as so much because it's going to absorb into the paper. I am getting a hard edge, which because I'm using enough paint. And this is the light red first, and then I'll get some of the dark washes in there too. They are going to be shocked when I call them on Monday and give them an update. I hope this is not a good batch because if it is, they're in trouble. They're in deep trouble. And so let's go with our darks down here, our dark reds. And to make a dark red, you just add some purple. You know, you just add purple to it or alizarin. You can add some alizarin to it. And I'm just going to go in here and just kind of get the dark red in there. Red, alizarin, or any blue, some blues in there to make it kind of purpley. I use Scarlet Lake for my red, and I find that to be that with Brilliant Orange. It's just phenomenally dark, or bright red, super bright red. I don't use I don't use cadmium reds. Which I know a lot of people like the cadmium. You also take opera. I take opera with the red to make it a little bit more pinkish red. You can do that too. I'm going to use that for my light areas because I've got to get kind of rid of the marks that's happening right now, and so I'm going to have to put enough paint and kind of float it because I really am not floating anything. It's absorbing the water into the paper, and I'm not getting a good puddle of water that I can float in. And you know me with my floating, I'm all about floating your pigment. So I'm going here. And this is a watercolor paper, so it shouldn't just be for gouache, because gouache can just cover anything because it's opaque, right? But this is their watercolor paper. Excuse me. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Uh-oh, the image started freezing. I hope it doesn't stop again. I wonder why on Sunday it stops. Oh no. Oh, that's just an ad. I'm looking at my part and an ad just came up. Let me just keep on going, and hopefully this is nothing. That would mean everything's going bad. Not only is the painting, but also the video is getting bad. I'll put a little gouache in here. I'll put a little gouache in there, and again, the difference between gouache and watercolor is that gouache is opaque. It's opaque watercolor, and it's made to be opaque. So if you want to cover something up, gouache is the way to go because that covers up anything because it's ground very finely, and a lot more pigment in gouache than there is in watercolor, because watercolor is transparent and gouache is opaque, and it's made to be that way. And when I use my gouache, I realize I have to cover something, so that's when I use my gouache. And when I want it to be transparent, I use my watercolor. When I want the white to show through, if I want to go around that, then it's just that's the way I think when I'm doing my watercolor, and I'm using both when I'm using both. And lately, that's what some of the classes I'll be teaching next year is with gouache and watercolor together. Look at these nice darks you can get in there. That hasn't warned me yet. Hopefully you guys are doing okay, but it's not. Usually it warns me if it's like the streaming is starting to get slow. I'm going in here with purple and red. I'm getting my darks. And I'm getting the folds and the shadows. I'm trying to get them in there right away. This is her leg, and her leg is pretty dark. And actually, in here, this red is really dark right there, but not so as much dark right here. And I'm working always light to dark. I'm trying to do my normal work, like where I'm going in there and just floating, but it's just not working. It's just absorbing in. So I'm kind of switching over to doing a little bit more thicker opaques, because it's just not, it's not floating. It's just absorbing into the paper and just kind of deadening up into the paper. Which is a good thing that they gave it to me and gave it to me now, and before they released it, because hopefully the stuff is not like this, because this would be terrible. It would be a terrible thing if they come out and this happens to people who are painting with this stuff. Now let's do her leg really dark. So I'll get some really dark purple, some flesh tone, because it's in shadow, and she may even have stockings on for all I know, I'm not sure. And so it's really dark down here, and I'll get the dark. I can go into this guy's pants because it's darker than her leg, so I can go beyond that. Put a little bit of orange in there to make it look more fleshy. I'm going into his pants, because his pants can be really dark, so I don't have to stop right at the line there. And then it goes down this way, her leg, again into his leg, because I don't have to worry about his leg. His leg is really, really dark, and I can just wet that, which I can't, but I'm going to try. And I can, again, later on, I can put opaques on top of that. So I'm all good. It's all good. I'll be putting opaques in some of the spots where it didn't give me a chance to do the wet in the wet washes. Now her shoes. Now this is really dark, so I'm just going to go in there right now and get the shoes and the band here. Once you learn how to do wet in the wet, and once you learn how to manipulate pigment, and then this week in my newsletter, I'm going to be talking about how to get a second wash after you've done your first wash and you feel like you didn't get it right. Because a lot of us do that, and I noticed a lot of students were doing that this week in class, is that they're doing a second wash and they're trying to make it look like a first wash and make it very clean and stuff. And there's a way of doing that, and I'm going to be showing that in my newsletter this week. So get my newsletter. You can either subscribe to it, or you can just go to my website, and there's a archived button there where you can get all the archived newsletters. So this is his shoe. there. And let's put a little bit more black into that. Make it nice and dark. Look at how you see the bumps, those bumps in there. You know, that's the sizing part. That's the part that I've been keep on talking about. But I'm going to stop now because I know it's a problem. But we'll get it. We'll make it through it, and it's gotta. I mean, it's gotta work like the regular paper. You cannot have it different than their regular paper, which I love. I love their Stonehenge Aqua. This is Stonehenge Aqua on the panel. So I got a feeling something happened when they prepared this panel or when they put it down. And hopefully that doesn't affect it like this when they glue it and lost the sizing or something. That would be a really horrible thing if they spent all that money to do this and then this happens. All right, so let's keep on going now. Let's go to his face, because his face is also in the shadow, but it's lighter than anything else. And I always go from light to dark. So her dress was the lightest, and I just kept on getting darker and darker. Now his face, I'm going to have to, since I can't do a wash and get the soft edges, I'm kind of have to make it, I'm going to have to rub the soft edges in. I'm going to get the brim right away into the whole thing. And you notice how red I'm going at first, because I can always make things darker. And so I start out light, and then I just get darker and darker. And since it's not a floating type of thing and it's soaking in, I'm just going to have to put it in thick. Very thick, the paint. Not too much water, because that's just going to make it go deep, and it's just going to blend all over the place. So I can make it pretty thick. Like I take my brush, I put water, a little bit of water, then I tap it onto my towel here and gets rid of the water, and then I can just have pure pigment on my brush, and then I can just go and draw with it. It's like I'm drawing with my brush. And dark underneath his nose, dark on the side of his, dark on the side of his nose, underneath his nose. And then his eye is really dark right here. The brim of his hat's pretty dark, so I'm going to get really dark with that. That's all right, Charlie. Senior brain, I have it too. Is it still blurry, Maria? Is it still blurring? Oh, streaming is in and out constantly? I have no idea why that's happening. It only happened on Sunday. Video plays soon. It won't go back in here. I hope this fixed it. Well, I'm back. I'm hopefully hope this helped. I have no idea why it does that. So I'm going to keep on painting, and hopefully it came back. And I'm doing the guy's face. That's what I left off at, and I'm sure, hopefully you saw that. I just keep on going here. Here's a little bit darker. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the middle tones here. Sorry about the streaming thing. I have no idea why it's doing that. It happened last weekend too, and it actually just stopped streaming. And I don't do anything different from my Thursday nights, and I'm not sure why it's doing on Sunday mornings. It does that. I don't do anything different. I'll have to look into that. Sorry, guys. I have no idea. So I'm going in here getting my darks, but I'm not getting my darkest darks. They're just my darks that are middle tones, basically. So I've got my thing going on. It's showing mine. I'm not sure. Is it stopped doing that now? Is it okay? So I'm getting detailed with him now. I'm putting his details into his face. I'm getting some of his ear in here. Why is it doing that? Well, I'm gonna keep on painting because I just gotta get this done, and then I'll put it on there. I'm gonna have to edit the whole thing. It's just terrible. I have no idea. I don't want to shut it down and restart it. Otherwise, I lose everything, and I want to show them this. How bad their paper is working. And I'm just going to keep on working. I'm sorry about this, and hopefully I can get this cleared up by next time I have something and I have a better piece of paper. So I'm going in here now and getting my details, a little bit more details. I'm still going to get his dark, the big area of dark of him. And since I can't do a big wash, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get some texture through by dabbing downwards or getting different colors in there. I'm very much used to always just putting water down, and then after I put the water down, then I give it like a technique to get texture or whatever. And since I can't get that, and since I can't float my pigment, I'm going to use it thick, and then just put dashes of thickness in there, like here some opaque colors. I'll just put like right there. I put a little bit of blue, nice and thick. And then he's got, make his collar here a little bit darker. Looks like there's a dark that goes back here underneath his hand. And just kind of blend that together. See, it's hard to get soft edges if you can't blend, or if it doesn't blend itself. I love it when the watercolor blends itself, right? Because that's what I like about watercolors, that I don't have to blend. It blends itself. And makes its own soft edges. I don't make soft edges in watercolor. It does it all on its own. That's my favorite thing about watercolor. And so since that's not happening, I've got to make it happen with like a thicker amount of paint by smoothing it out myself. Here, like this little shadow right here and his fingers. And I'll go with a darker up here. This is part of his shirt. And now let's wet his, see how much we can wet his. I'm going to wet this a little bit and see how much I can get floating here without, it still floats a little bit. Well, actually, no, it doesn't, not at all. But look at this, look at how that's just getting really dark in there. That's just terrible. So I'm just going to have to make it thick, and I do want different colors in there though. So, you know, me and blending different colors. When it rains, it pours. when the paper goes bad, then suddenly maybe the YouTube doesn't want to show this. They're blocking me. They don't want to show how terrible this paper has worked at the moment. Yeah, this is not how the paper should be working. But this is like not being released until December, so I'll be definitely telling them about this what happened here with today. It'll be very important to show them, but I wouldn't mind if this was clear the whole time. See, I'm just putting it on thick. There's no blending here with water. It's just seeping right into the board and going way down to the bottom of the aluminum. And so and it's sucking it in like crazy here. So I'll use some opaques, and then that will just be nice because that'll just go right in there and cover up all those areas that are kind of textured with the paper. And then you can use thick. I mean, I'm using it thick, and that's cool. I can use colors in there. You know, it'll still work. It's still gonna look great. It's still gonna be fine. But that's not how, you know, if you're a beginner and I'm teaching you how to do wet in the wet. This is not going to be the paper right now. And I was also going to do stencils. I have a stencil right here. I'm going to use a stencil in the background. But if I can't erase and it doesn't dry, it would be impossible to use that and take out. I can put in part of that, which I may do anyways, and just see. Definitely was not what I expected this morning to happen. Hey, Mary Beth. You know, there's gonna be some glitches into the video for some reason. It goes after a while. I'm not sure how this has been happening on Sundays. Gosh, look at how it's just seeping in there. It's just seeping in so strongly. It does give me a soft edge, I must say that, because it's like it's hard to get a hard edge because it's soaking into the paper. And that's what sizing does. That's what sizing helps out with, is when you have sizing, good sizing, it stops it and holds the paint together. Where when there's a problem with your sizing in paper, it makes it almost impossible to paint a nice straight hard edge line because it's soaking into the paper. But I'm using it like wash, and so we're all good. We're all good. Here, we're going to put some blue in there. And I was going to use opaques anyways, so this just makes it that much better. I'm going to use some thicker on the outside. And when I'm still going to try maybe use a stencil a little bit. How much time do we have anyways? Oh boy. I'll have to keep it at an hour. So we're going to see how we do there. This has been like nothing but problems the whole time. Sorry about that, guys. Cheers, anyways. So it's still gonna turn out, but it's just not what I expected to be happening. I'm so excited about this paper too. I really love these boards. I just think they're so amazing. Now let's get her hair. And just I'm using a nice, look at the point I get on this brush. And this is not floating at all. This is just pretty much putting on thick paint. And I don't need a soft edge right here. And when I do, I just need to just put a little bit of water there and it'll be fine. And then she's got this little, I'm not sure what that is, like a scarf, little black feathered scarf on. It still has a little bit more movement because of those little, when I spattered and stuff. And it will go away. Some of this is going to go away because it's just the darkness of the paper being able to see through it. So that'll go away and it'll be light again. So I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when this is finally dry, what it'll look like. And that's not her hair. This is not her hair right here. This is it's like a little scarf, boa, I think, type of thing. And they're doing a tango. Maria's got to get me pictures of you and your husband. You gotta show me pictures like this. I would love to get some photographs like this. They teach dancing. It'd be so cool to get some shots like this. And my entertainment series. This is part of my entertainment series. I'm trying to do a bunch of paintings from entertainers and dancers and all kinds of things like that. That's really, I love bands and some darks in here. So what I'm going to do is, for getting really bright, I'm going to start using it thick. I'm going to use it like oil paints or acrylics, where I'm going to use it real thick. But that's my watercolor. I shouldn't be using the watercolor like that. I should be using this is the gouache. If I use it really thick, it'll just sit on top, which is cool. You know, it's okay. It's made to do that. It's made to make it thick. It doesn't give you the transparent look because it's not transparent. And let's just do a little shadows on his light part here, on his, where it's light, dark right here, where his arm is going around that way. See, I want it so dark that I don't see. I don't want to see certain things because I'm not getting a good wash in here, a fluid wash. So I'm instead going to just try to make it a flat black, because it's not about seeing through and giving me a neat wash of transparency. It's basically flat black, and then so that's what I got to deal with. It's going to make it that way instead. Is the video okay still? I'm wondering if the video is still okay or if it's still going crazy. See, now I'm getting the shoes, all the darks, all the nice sharp darks. Nice and red. Again, now I'm just going to start using my gouache because I want it thick. I just want to go in there and get some thick lines and thick things. And his hands are really messy because I'm going to use white I'm going to make my own flesh tone, and I'm going to make it light. And so I'm just going to put it on thick because it's going to cover. It's going to cover up. Yeah. This is my gouache right here. This is my gouache. And so I can just use that as thick and then just go right over to create a nice, soft, smooth edge. And with white, I can just put my white back into the paper. Now, it's never going to be as white as the paper itself. That always will be the brightest. Put a little darkener here, put a little red reflecting. And she's got really dark underneath her chin here. It gets really dark. And so now I'm in total detail stage. I mean, totally, really dark details. And this is the last step. You know, we can go in and get all the little details. Like the ear, the shape of the ear, and the ear hole here. All those little things come in now. Right, his hand. The lines for the fingers. And then he's got the dark suit is right here. And now let's go and get some shadowing from the ground onto the floor. The background is basically, you know, a big mess, but and then look how much I made it so dark over here, and look at how it got really light. Because it's absorbing in, it's just taking that pigment and just absorbing it in. And so I'm going to put a stencil on there, but let's just get let's get some shadow on the ground for them. Now that I know I'm going to just have to use it thick, and I shouldn't use it transparently. And so I'm just going to go in here and just get some nice darks in there. Opaque, this is all opaque now. This is just like oil, like I'm oil painting. And then I'm just going to put brush strokes, like little brush strokes up here of dark. I'm not going to, again, I'm going to start now. I'm pretend like this is gouache painting now because it's not going to blend. It's not going to be wet in the wet. It's not going to be opaque, or it's not going to be transparent. So it's just going to be opaque. So I'm just going to go in and just put thick amounts of paint in there. And this is a gouache technique. This is nothing to do with watercolor. This is basically how you get thickness into your work. And so I'm just going to put some darks over here. Because I like that door over there, but it doesn't have to be actually a door. It can just be something that's dark in that area. This dark over here is kind of neat. And so I'm just going to bring that over a little dark. These little mailboxes that are in the wall, I'm not going to put those in. I will put a little mark there just to make it, you know, look like texture. I like this curb here too a little bit, so I'm going to put that through there. And now I'm going to go back into the dress, into her dress, and I'm going to start making really, really thick pigment marks because I can't do that with the light. You know, I've got to basically do it with the white paint now, and then just go in and I'll have to make up my own pink with gouache here. I'm going to make it really bright and thick, because I wanted to opaquely cover up what's underneath, and that's fine. Again, because I have to do that because I don't have the lightness of the paper shining through. And anybody that's just starting to watch this paper, there's something wrong with the sizing, and it's not holding up together really well. So I just have to do more of a gouache technique on here instead. See, I'm going all gouache. I'm going thick, opaque. I'm just going opaque now. And then you lose the transparency, and the transparency is what makes a watercolor look really cool, right? Well, this will be fine. I mean, it's still going to look okay, but it won't have that transparency into it anymore. Yeah, it's kind of funny how the paper is for what I'm making. It still looks okay. It's kind of funny how that you just go with what you have to go with. But like I said, if this was the paper that I'm buying and I want it to be a certain way, that's not how normally the regular paper works. They're Stonehenge Aqua, so they have to make it work exactly the same as just if they buy a sheet of paper on the panel. This is not, you don't want this effect. But like I said, this some of this is going to go away though, I think, because it's wet and so it has the dots. So I may have to still go back in later then and then put in a little bit of put in a little bit of dots just so because they're going to go away. It's just that's what's happening with the paper right now. Let's put a little bit of thickness right here. Watch this. I'm going to make his, because he's got a really dark blue coat on. And even if it's not blue, it's reflecting some blues in it. So right here, I'm just going to put a little bit of a wash of thickness to it. See how it's like a thick coat? Here's his pocket. I'm just going to put that in there real quick. I'm not sure if you can see that in your video, but it's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit lighter. What I'm taking is a little bit lighter blue. I'm just going to putting it over to dark. And then here his shoulder is a little bit lighter, and so I'm going to take thickness of the paint. It's thick paint. Remember, this is opaque now. This is opaque, and I'm using it very thick. This is gouache. Again, it's gouache that I'm using. Gouache is opaque watercolor. And now let's show you last thing here. We got 2 minutes left. That's pretty good for the paper, let me tell you. It's like I didn't think it was gonna be this good when I started out with it. So let's put this little, make this pants a little bit darker. Her thigh a little bit darker. And so here's the stencil I'm using today. I'm just gonna put it back, and I'm just gonna wipe out. And so this is called Joggles.com. I bought them very inexpensive. This one was like $7. It was on sale. But this is Joggles.com. See right there, Joggles.com. And it's 12 inches by 9 inches, I think, which, you know, when you get that from Stencil Girl products, they're about 14 bucks, and this was like six or seven, you know. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna lay in, I can't rub out. Normally you can rub out, but it's soaking into the paper, so I couldn't rub out this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a color, and so what I'll do is I'm just going to lay over the whole thing, and I'm going to take a stiff brush like this. I'm going to take you know, a pure bristle brush. I'm just going to take it, and I'm just going to tap right into it like this, straight down, and it's just going to give me a texture. Give me a little texture of like bricks almost. I figured this one was kind of a nice one. Taking just all my dirty color and just tapping straight down. And then see a couple little bricks on the side there. I'll do that on the top here. I'll get a gray, you know, I'll take a little bit of white and black, make myself a little bit of gray here. I don't want it really dark or anything in there. I just want to make the texture-y. So I'm taking my stencil. I can do it right over the door. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And so where else can I do that? I can do it right into him a little bit. You know, I'm gonna go right into him because they're moving, and so everything's blurry and having things like this, you know, right into them. That's cool. And maybe in the bottom here a little bit. Normally I would also wipe out parts too, but gives it a little bit of abstractness to it. And where else? Maybe one right here, and then we're done, guys. Sorry about all the delay stuff today and the paper, but it happens, and so it's always my demo with David. There's always something new. All right, I think that's going to be about it, guys. And then let's say I still wanted to do like some big parts, like again thickness. I can just go in there and I can just do little hits of dark gouache. This is gouache again, like I said, it's gouache, so it's fun to actually make a thickness to something. You can rub it a little bit. There's this pocket. I think we're gonna leave it at that. Oh boy, they're gonna get a notice from me on Monday. It's like, wow, guys, what did you do with your paper? You have to do something different, guys. Let's do a little bit of cleaning up here too. Let's say we're gonna put a little bit of white little areas. Just gonna take pure white and just do like a little bit of brush strokes here and there to. Yeah, I just like, getting little hits of white at places to make it move. Super fun. Super fun to do. All right, guys, that's about it. Sorry for all the confusion here and the and going down at a time, but I think I'm going to keep it at that. And so follow me subscribe to me on my YouTube channel, and always look for our Thursday night paint-alongs. This week, like I said, for the my newsletter is going to be about how to correct mistakes, how to make a second wash on your paper without making it look like it is a second wash. You want to make it look like it's the first wash. I'm putting a little bit of darks right here while I'm talking, guys. Just aside, just going to put a little bit of light in here to make like. All right, okay. So there you have it. Have fun, paint a lot, and we'll see you on Thursday. All right. See you later, guys.